Hi, guys. Welcome to The Source. It's our podcast for Ink and Edge magazine, where we actually do a interview with the columnist of the latest article in our mag. And today I actually have Chelsea. She's a huge influencer online. If you're in the restyle world, you've seen her videos. They're funny, they're quirky, and they're all well vested in being a true installer. You might have even seen her at SEMA, where she was repping Evolve. Is that correct, Chelsea? Chelsea?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
it was
a
like, is
booth
it
car for
Evolve that you were
Evolve.
repping at SEMA?
Yes.
Heck yeah. Your car is in the shot, so I'm kind of like fangirling on it right now. It's gorgeous. I can see it back there.
Thank you.
So, first, I wanted to start off with really just getting your backstory and kind of knowing the origin of what you're about and what you do. Like, obviously, you're a killer installer, but tell us about your startup, your come up.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm really excited to share. So, my background actually is very far from the car industry. I started in hospitality. I worked in the resort and hotel world for a long time, and making the switch into the car wrapping industry was something that I actually didn't have planned, but it came from proper timing, right time, right place. I met my boss and I was hired on. I only have about 5 years of experience doing this, so I'm considered pretty young in the industry. But it's been really fun and I've learned so much from it. So that's kind of my back history of, I didn't come from the car world, but dove in head first and I'm enjoying it so far. So I love it.
Great when we can see like a female, vehicle wrap installer in the industry, who knows how to do PPF, who knows how to do everything. I would love to know more or less like what was it about the industry that was like your calling, like that made you decide I got to join this. I got to like get all my knowledge and do this.
Yeah. So when I first started, I mentioned before I didn't come in knowing or having a lot of the experience, and I started from the ground up. But when I took what I learned in the hotel world, when I was looking at my future in the hotel industry, I knew that something about it just wasn't really speaking to me. It wasn't my true calling. And although I love the industry and I found it really entertaining and very enjoyable to work in. Since I'm a social butterfly, I like to talk to people and I like to work in and around people. I never really found that that was something that I wanted to do long term. And taking the jump into the wrapping industry really opened up my eyes because it was a skill that I knew that hold on, let me kind of like add on to that in a different way. When I made the jump into the rap industry, I came in not knowing anything, but I knew that I was creative and I wanted to take that and run with it. So once I started learning the basics of how to rap at the shops that I started at, it really sparked something in me where it ignited this spark where I just wanted to run with it. And that's kind of how I got started. I didn't take any training courses or any certification classes. I just learned from the ground up. I'm a very hands on learner. So being able to really work with the film and figure out how it plays and the best tips and tricks from the top installers that I learned from was essential for me getting that foundation built to allow me to do what I do today.
And it sounds like you found your calling and are you more YouTube University or were you more like actually apprenticing at a shop or various shops? There's like a huge
At the
misconception on
time,
like what that you have to get 3M certifications.
yes. So when I first started, I didn't know what I was doing, and I also didn't know where to look for this information. So most of the time, I was just learning from the installers that were teaching me hands on. So I would watch what they do and the techniques that they were using, and I would pick up little tips and tricks from them, and they would teach me kind of the basics of how to lay the film and how it works and how much to heat it. And so over time, with that type of hands on experience, you do get more familiar inevitably. So later on, I started to dive more into the content creators out there who are putting out information about how the films work and the different things that you can do with it. But it wasn't until later that I started looking online at certain platforms for this information. A lot of my first couple of years doing this was just hands on in the shop, figuring out how it works and putting those skills to the test. So it was a lot of hard work.
I think that's best. It's like trial and error and you can get your hands dirty like effectively you don't want to get your hands dirty in this role, but like you want to be in the environment where you're surrounded by people who know the craft of wrap installing and
Mhm.
like learning the different types of substrates and everything. I'm sure you kind of did that just being with somebody in a shop environment. Like what do you think learning the craft from the ground up like really taught you that a course never could?
Yeah, so with the experience that I was learning, I was also learning at the same time that I'm the type of person that I need to be a hands-on type of learner. I need to learn these skills more in a hands-on situation rather than learning it from a book or having somebody tell me how to do it. So I found that actually working with my hands and getting in there and figuring it out was the best technique for me to learn how these things work. But also at the same time, the installers that I'm working with, they're encouraging me to try it. And if it doesn't make sense or it doesn't come out right, rip it off and do it again. Luckily, we are not tattoo artists here. We're wrap installers. So the film that we're using, it's not permanent. So when you run into mistakes and things, it can be easily changed and rewrapped if it needs to be. So there was a lot of installers that I would work with who would tell me, try it. If it doesn't work, rip it off and start again. It's not a big deal. If it doesn't work out the first time, you can always replace it and fix it. So that really gave me the confidence to go for it and try these big challenging panels and the intricate stuff that does take a lot more skill than what I had at the time. But that's how I developed those skills, and to be able to do bigger, more intricate projects is allowing me the freedom to go after these big challenging moments and try it and learn along the way. So I think that was a really huge part about how I was
That
able to develop my skills. So yeah.
I kind of wanted to segue that into the article, but more or less the name of your column. And I think that's like really perfect with, how you were self taught and everything. It's No Limits is the name of her article. And it's No Limits with Chelsea. And really that just speaks to like you not having limits. Because I think when you are trained as a, apprentice, usually in typical shops, you're like the low man on the totem pole, you're picking up shop trash, you're just doing whatever, and you're just trying to get ahead and learn the craft. But the best way, in my opinion, on some of the top installers that I've seen over the years is they will start and try immediately off the bat, start using the film and working with the film. And it kind of sounds like you were the same. You were like on the job training from the jump, right?
Yes, the beginning stages of working in a shop, you're doing a lot of the dirty work at the same time as developing these skills and starting to learn how the film works and how to wrap, the basics of how to wrap. And so a lot of where I started was, yeah, picking vinyl off the floor, taking out the trashes, prepping cars for the people, the more experienced installers to be able to work on the things that I would be watching them. It's a lot of shadowing, and along the more time that passes, the more opportunities you get that comes along where you can take on this car yourself now, or you can wrap this panel yourself. And so I think with time, how would I phrase it? Sorry, I'm kind of hiccuping right now, but I'm trying to find the right wording.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The, sorry, Trish, you might have to cut this part out, but
I was gonna. Everything is gonna be edited, but what I would say is like to me, the path is different for every single person. But there's some people like you who are very like much a go getter, and you don't stay at that level for long. Like you want to, as you're picking up for the other people working the shop, and you're a low man, you're actually looking at what's going on. You're paying attention to the different vehicles that are in and out of the shop, and that's kind of
exactly.
what gets you like one leg ahead. And I'm basically just
Yes,
saying
that
that
is
to
great.
give people, because there's going to be any number of people watching this, from people who are high up in the, in the industry, to people just starting out and just like want to maybe pick up the craft. So I kind of wanted to mention like it's all about who you are, and like no limits. And you really
Hmm.
had no limits. You kept an open mind.
Yeah. Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's
so that's kind
perfect.
of where I was going with it. Sorry. So it's mostly
Okay,
just
no,
trying to
that's
figure, and that's good. Like we can cut it however you would like, but that's yeah.
okay,
So you kept your
perfect.
eyes open, and as you were new to the shop.
Yeah. So going into a shop most of the time, at least from my experience, I was picking up vinyl off the floor, taking the trashes out, prepping cars to be ready to be wrapped. And I wasn't really the most experienced in the shop settings that I was in. But at the same time, I'm paying attention to what these installers are doing, the techniques that they're using, so that I can be prepared when it's my time to shine. So over time that did change, and I was able to take on more, and eventually to the point where I was handling full cars by myself. But you do have to put in that time, and it really comes down to who you are as a person, the skills that you're wanting to build, and where you see yourself going. If you don't make any progress, you're not going to reach that end goal. So I really had to push myself, hunker down, take the hard moments, and know that I'm going to continue through those to get to where I wanted to be. So ultimately, there's no limits for where there are no limits where you can take this type of skill. And so I think keeping that in the back of your head, even on the tough days, will get you through it.
Like Chelsea, the name of your article or the name of your column we'll cut that part. The name of your column is perfect, no limits. And that's mostly because you have kept such a broad, you didn't shy away from social media. Like a lot of people, a lot of installers, you kind of just stick your head in the vinyl and you just go and you take your jobs as you get them and you get successful over time. You've actually put yourself out there in social media and have gone viral several times. And it's been amazing for our industry. And I would love your point of view on how much fun that was for you. Like wrapping cars, you make it look glamorous, but you're very open about the late nights and the injuries and the sunburns and the grind. So why was it important for you to show that side instead of what like all the girls, show in social media, which is like the sex, the whatever. I would love to know. I'm fangirling over that, by the way, because I think you do such an exceptional job at just being humorous and being yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, so a lot of the reason, oh, sorry, Trisha, my listen to off my phone. Okay, so the reasons, yeah, my kind of end goal always is to make sure that I'm portraying the reality of what this industry holds. It does look quite glamorous and, can be made out to look much more easily attainable than I think a lot of people understand. And so, with my approach to content and sharing the ins and outs, the ups, the downs of our industry, I think it's really important for people to get an understanding of how much time and dedication and effort it actually takes to make this a reality of what we do as artists. And so, I do want to be authentic and genuine about the hard times. When I'm constantly encouraging people to learn how to rap and to tackle these things on their own, they need to be well equipped and aware of what they're going to be experiencing during this process as well. And that's something that I've learned over time with taking on my own project cars. You can run into a lot of difficult moments that seem challenging, like deal breaking moments that might feel unachievable, but there's always a way around it. And there's always ways to overcome these moments where you feel like you might not be able to finish this on time, or you might feel stuck on a certain panel. It is difficult. There are difficult times. We do spend late nights finishing cars. There are things that are challenging about it, like getting burned or getting cut. We're using torches and blades constantly. So you do have to be careful. And you also want to be careful not to damage the car that you're working on. So it does take a level of detail to make sure that we're getting these things done while also protecting ourselves in the process. So it's by no means a glamorous thing to do.
I love that.
It's by no means a glamorous career path, but it's not impossible for the average person to do this. And that's kind of where I take my content, as an encouraging voice that says, yes, you can do it. I do it. And I learned from knowing nothing. And I'm still making it happen. And so can anybody that has this as a passion.
That is what's so important. And I think the fact that you make it attainable and also are very like humorous about it, that will like make you more memorable. I think that is just one of the things that a lot of people like resonate with, is that you're real. I lost, yeah. Okay, so basically, I think I lost the stuff for a second, so I'm just gonna repeat. I got the last part. I got everything you said, but I'm gonna just say what I just said a minute ago, just because I think it might have cut off. But so I'm just gonna go into the thick skin thing here, but I'm gonna
Wait,
talk about.
can I ask you for like 30 seconds? I need to go get my other AirPods so that I can hear you. I'll be right back, okay? I have
Yeah,
it on the charger.
absolutely.
Okay, let me see. Is this still going? Okay, let me see if I can hear you. Shoot,
Okay, can you hear me? I'm here. I swear.
I can hear you, but it's so low. My little AirPods are dying.
Can you hear? Let me talk louder, or
Okay,
no?
yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So let me
Okay.
ask, yes, and luckily I got all of that last bit, so we're good there. That was number 4.
Okay.
Wait, no, not number 4. Okay, so I'm gonna ask number 4, but I'm gonna go into the thick skin too, because I didn't really get number 4, and I'm like, dude, I jumped ahead. So I'm gonna just talk really briefly about why that resonates with people and talk about your moment. So I can totally tell that one of the things that make you so popular is just exactly what you just said. You're relatable, you're making it fun, in my opinion, really cute, but also memorable, because people go through these situations when you're starting out, and also when you're like a seasoned installer, you're still going to be learning. What was the moment that content became more than just content and you decided to like make that part of your career, and being an influencer in the restyle industry?
Yeah, so I've been filming content now for quite some time, but there's one moment that I can remember that really changed the game for me. And a lot of people see this piece of content and they probably assume that it was a well planned, prepped project, when actually, in reality, it was at one of my lowest points. I remember I was sitting in my kitchen on an afternoon and I had no clients. I had nothing to do that day. I had nothing to wrap and I had no new projects coming in. And I felt really lost with what I should make today or on that day. I had no direction. And so on a whim, I'm like, well, I've got nothing more to do today. So I'm just going to wrap something in my house. So that was the moment that I wrapped my fridge. And it was a viral piece that did millions of
I
views.
love it.
And I had no idea that was going to happen because in my mind, I'm thinking, I've got nothing better to do than to try something weird. So I'm going to wrap something just for fun. And it actually ended up taking off. And so that was a moment for me when I'm like sitting there in my kitchen with no direction. And I just went for something that I was like, you know what, this is good practice and it's something to do. And I'm going to film it and share it because this is my life. This is reality of where I'm at right now in this moment. And it actually did really well. And it started this new trend where I ran with it and I started wrapping all kinds of stuff in my house. And I transitioned that skill of wrapping over into my life and my real life of, different parts about me. I like to consider myself very multi-layered. I like all kinds of stuff. I like the gym and makeup and hair and beauty and all that stuff. And cars is just a small portion of that, but
Same.
it's what I choose to film most about. And so it was really interesting. And so that was kind of a fun little series that took off. And then people started to recognize me as the girl that wrapped her
And I have to
fridge,
tell
which I
you,
love.
that was that's how you came on our radar at WePrintWraps.com, was that video. It's
So
100%. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't, I don't think I even knew of you. You weren't on my radar, but I saw that video and I was like, okay, who is she? I'm going to start following her. Like, because I'm always trying to have a pulse on people in the industry that are, getting in front of new customers, and because I'm about growth and I feel like this is where it's going. If you want to be a successful shop owner, you really want to align yourself with, being identifiable to your audience. And like, if somebody
mhm,
needed a fridge, I mean, in your area even, they're going to want to go with somebody who can make it look really cool. And that's a benefit. But the other
right.
part of it is you're being a leader in your like industry and you're motivating everyone to like think outside the box, because after that, like, again, you had a whole viral moment and then boom, it was video after video of other creators wrapping fridges. Like it was cool.
hmm
And I think we should do
It was
something else
really
with
fun to
that.
see that
We need a
ripple happen.
collab.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
but I think
do.
since we're
Let's do
here and we're
it.
talking about this, it's 2026. Let's like think of something crazy, like something off the wall. I know you're into the gym and everything that we can wrap and we can use our AI to design and we'll send you the film. So you just ruminate on that and like marinate on it because I think that'd be really fun.
Right. It would be. It'd be really cool. That video actually sparked quite a bit of conversation. I think I had Dude Wipes, that bathroom wipe company, reach out and go, "Oh my gosh, like we need a gold toilet." And I'm like, "Let's make it happen." After I wrapped my toilet gold, they saw that and was like, "We should do something." And it hasn't happened yet, but maybe in 2026.
You got like, I know that hasn't happened quite yet, but you've gotten some other business out of it, and like notably so, you've gotten evolved to, and Pain is Dead, right? Has also reached out and they're part of the sponsorship with you as well. They've got contracts with you. I think that's great. So like
Yes,
opening
I've made
doors left
some
and right by
great.
just being creative and thinking outside the box.
Yeah, the connections is where I'm
So
most
I just
passionate
want to.
about.
So fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a little bit about needing thick skin in this industry. How does physically and mentally, especially being a woman, like what are some of the moments that tested you the most so far in your career?
Yeah, so being a woman in this industry, I think, is quite challenging. And some of the first memories that I can think of that has really challenged my ability to have thick skin actually came from the shop that I started in. Um, my boss was looking for a female to join the team. His motive was that females are often more detailed than men. And I felt that as a confidence booster because I'm like, yes, I got this. Let's do it. I know nothing about this, but I'm going to try my best. And I was really excited going into it. And he did teach me the basics. And I am so grateful for everything that I learned there. But at the same time, we had a very high clientele coming through our shop with really expensive cars. So I was always reminded of how careful I needed to be and how important it was that I didn't mess up. My daily motto was don't fuck this up. Don't let it happen. It cannot happen that way. And so I went into each product feeling almost this level of anxiety where I'm like, okay, well, I'm still learning, but at the same time, it has to be perfect. That amount of stress for somebody who's learning a new skill can be very, very daunting. And so I think the thick skin building happened right the second that I started this career path from the very get go. And there are moments when I find that that does happen in the industry when there's quite a bit of artists. There's very, very talented artists in this industry that, sometimes they come with big egos, and you have to be mindful of and respectful of everybody's own individual skills. But when you come in along people that are, more competitive, let's say, then you just have to be aware of your own skills and confident in your own abilities more than anything, because a lot of what you see online can be portrayed in a way that's maybe not how it actually appears, or in a way that maybe isn't actually how your story is meant to be told. People look at what they see online and can make assumptions about you that might not be true. But at the end of the day, you know you better than anybody else, and you know what you're capable of. So sticking true to that and letting that be what leads you to be better is going to be way better than allowing, people's comments or assumptions tear you down.
And you talk about like your origin story of having to have that thick skin because you're working on supercars and doing that so early in your career, but also just being a content creator, especially in the resale industry, you have to basically prove it, right? Like you've got people giving you looks, you get underestimated, like you just said, they just judge you. What
Hmm.
were some of the moments that like really tested you the most where you're like, ooh, I want to respond to this troll, but you didn't? Like, do you have a
Oh,
moment that like
Trish.
resonates with you? Like, I'm going to be bigger.
Yep.
That's a tough question.
My No, it's so funny though that you say that, because even as somebody with, in my shoes that's out here making content, I'm purposely putting myself out there. I need to be able to understand that that's going to come with the territory. If you put yourself out there, people are going to give you their opinion, whether you ask for it or not. And I'm going to be really honest, I am not the nicest person. In the morning before I've had coffee, if I open my Facebook comment section, I need to just put my phone down. It's really challenging because people will say things and assume things about you that is not true. It's just some of the dumbest comments I've ever heard of. And it can be really difficult to hold my tongue, but you can't let it get to you. You have to take a step back and say, is this really worth my energy? No, it's just some person online giving me their opinion. But I agree, it is really difficult to hold your tongue sometimes and set those things aside and brush it off your shoulder, because, they're saying and assuming things about you that is not true, but you can't let it get to you. I think that's one of the biggest tips of advice that I'm giving, but that I also take myself, because, it can get to me, and it has in the past. And so I don't think that ever
Be
goes
honest with
away,
you.
but I think we
Yeah,
adapt
I'm
to
I'm
learn.
literally taking notes right now. I needed to hear that. That's why I'm like, tell me more because like that is, one of my struggles is not like listening. I post something and like if I hear any type of negative anything, I get very like, oh. But like you just said, it's the name of the game. When you're putting yourself out there, you're going to need to expect some feedback. Sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but just like know that it's not important, right? Just mentally out of the head there, it never really helps to like try to get into battles on in front of everybody in the comment section. It's like be professional, maybe send them a DM and respond. Is that what you would normally do, or just not respond at all, or it depends?
Yeah, so normally, most often than not, I won't reply. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little spicy, I'll give them a little dose of like, you're overstepping, but this is why you're wrong, you know what I mean? About me as a person. Most often than not though, I won't reply. It's not really in my nature to do so. As much as I want to, it's not worth it. It really isn't. And then also being a content creator online, this is my resume. This is my platform. This is some people's first impressions of me too. And so I want to go about it in a respectful way where I'm also, as I'm approaching 30, I want to make sure that I'm being a good influence for these younger generations as well. And how, I would want other people to treat me is same way that I'm going to treat them. If they're going to be rude, then I'm just going to block them out. It doesn't help. It doesn't interfere with my day at all. I'm just going to weed out the people that don't belong and encourage
It's
the
the
people that
best.
ask for that.
I love that is the best, most professional response. Honestly, like anybody who's in business who wants to grow their own social platforms, just who need to put themselves out there, that's probably one of the first things they need to learn is how to be professional. Because if you're stooping to somebody's level and responding in a snarky way, it's your resume, and you want to make
Hmm.
sure that no matter what anybody else says, you're not going to shake your core, because that's just what people want if they're being trolls. So thank you for answering that.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
literally taking notes for myself because that's such good advice. So I'm going to move on here to your lane. You've made a very intentional decision to not open your own wrap shop. So I'll probably say that one more time because I was like, eh. Okay. So Chelsea, so you've made a really intentional decision to not open a wrap shop. And that's mostly because you want freedom. You want to be able to take the jobs that you want and not deal with people overhead of a shop and employees. Is that right? I'd love to hear more on like that decision.
Yeah. So from the second I started, you have to really look at in any job, this works for any occupation. You want to look at the top spot, right? You want to look at the managers. You want to look at the people that are on the top of that industry. And when you're working towards that spot, is that where you want to see as your end goal? And for me, more often than not, everybody in the wrap space, the end goal is to open up their own wrap shop and have their own wrap business. And for me as a contractor, I've gone to so many different shops and I've looked at the managers and what kind of spots they're in. And something about it just didn't ever really speak to me. It didn't make me want to open up my own one day. I was watching all of these managers juggling 50,000 things, pulling their hair out, trying to keep the lights on in these shops sometimes because our industry does experience slow moments. And I was watching them get rid of employees and refine their team so that they didn't have to spend so much in overhead on the entire business running. And what calls me the most is just the artistry about it. What calls me is the time and effort and the creative that goes into these projects. I don't want to worry about the rest. I don't want to worry about the building or the employees or the insurance or all of the other little tiny mundane things that these shop owners are taking on. And I commend them for doing so because it's a really challenging spot to be in. But for me, like I would much rather prefer to focus on the actual artistry and the chosen specific projects that I want to work on that I can put my name on and send out to the world, not necessarily in a shop setting. So, the way that I see my career is I am a rapper, but I'm also a big time content creator. That's what I prefer to identify myself as. I'm a content creator who also raps. And so, my end goal doesn't necessarily fit with the end all be all of my end goal is to have a shop. My end goal is to travel. My end goal is to create memories and connections with plenty of other doors to open, other companies, and allow that to open doors for other new fun projects that I wouldn't run into if I had a shop. So for me, it feels very limiting. For others, it feels like the end goal, and that's perfectly fine. But I think it just matters of where you see yourself later down the line. What do you want to look back on, and what are you trying to build? So that's kind of how I see it. It's a sweet spot for me.
Honestly, I love that, Chelsea, because I think in this industry it's just not talked about enough. A lot of times it's just like everybody's one thing is going from, working for somebody to having their own shop. But that isn't the only way to success. And I know that
Mhm.
firsthand because I owned a brick and mortar shop when I started out like 12 years ago and before we transitioned to actually having an e-com. But like I've seen the stress. I mean, I've been a part of the stress. Of having a big overhead with having customers coming in and all that stuff. And I can tell you, there's space for everybody. There's space for people who want to
Mhm.
have that. That's beautiful. If it's in your heart to do that, they'll do the work and they'll love it. But there's also space for people who want to just not have a shop and be able to be a independent installer that can fly around the country and do jobs. There's so many of those guys out there that are killing it. There, a lot of them are our customers
Mhm.
at WeFromApps.com because they don't have a shop, but that doesn't deter them from actually selling wraps. Like they can sell wraps and go to the shops and do them. They're outsourcing. They're doing everything, and I think that's what's so really exciting about like having the skill set of being a wrap installer or a PPF
Hmm.
installer or both is that you have that in your belt. You can choose to be a content creator, you can choose to do all these trade shows, you can choose to go to people's shops and do the sub thing. There's so many people that need that, especially in this market. A lot of like sign shops don't want to just hire a full-time wrap installer. That demand is there, and I love that you're like showing that path.
Yeah,
Clearly to
I
see
love it.
that's a way of success for sure. I
Yeah.
commend you.
And to
So
add
I'm
on
gonna
to
go
it
to the
too.
next question.
Oh, did I lose you?
I got you again. I lost you for like a second, but you can like the
Okay.
last 4 minutes or 4 seconds I didn't get. What was that?
Okay. I was just going to trail off a little bit. I don't remember what the next question was, but I did want to touch on in the my lane category that like the way that I have been in connection with like Throttle and their YouTube platform, and that's kind of driven my direction to not want my own shop. Let me see.
Yeah, I can answer. So would you like me to ask? Because we could start. Boom. I can say. Okay, I can say. So you made a very intentional decision to not open your shop. Walk us through that choice and what freedom looks like, or would it be like? Can you tell us about some of your main sponsors, or how would you
Yeah,
like me
if
to
you
ask
could
you?
ask me like, so how would you describe what you do now in the industry then? Kind of like, so give me a little bit of a clarification on like where you're going in the industry type of thing. Like, what does your day to day look like then if you don't want your own wrap shop type of, does that make sense?
Yeah, I can ask that. That's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So Chelsea, give me a day-to-day scenario. Since you don't want your own brick and mortar wrap shop, what is like your typical day, and where do you think you're going with your career?
Yeah, so because I don't
Like
work
walk us
at a
through that.
shop, yeah, because I'm not going now that I'm not commuting back and forth to a shop every day, I'm really focusing on creating the projects that I want to work on and focusing all of my energy into specific projects that I'm searching for. So I'll have companies reach out that want to do collabs for certain projects, or I still pick up quite a bit of mobile installs for a bunch of different shops that I'm contracted with. So I fill my time with those. I fill my time with social media projects for specific companies. I fill a lot of my time with my biggest sponsors. So Pain is Dead and Evolve are two massive companies that I've built an awesome connection with that help me create. They give me the ability to create and produce these types of projects. Another huge one that's in my another in my circle is Throttle. So I basically got my big come up from Throttle and being featured on their YouTube channel. From day one was wrapping Quinn's FDRX7. That was one of the biggest projects that kind of put me on the map because they have such a huge platform. It allowed me to be creative in front of a bigger audience that was unattainable to me at the time. So that was massive. And then further from there, over the years, I've made multiple different debuts on their channel. So that was really great for me to showcase my skills to a bigger audience. And I'm so grateful for that chance and opportunity. So now it's mostly building my schedule around whatever I can find. So I have a lot of companies that I work with. I have a lot of friends in my industry that are constantly bouncing jobs back and forth off of each other. Referral clients are a big part of what I do. And just hand selected projects that I feel fits my creative ability the most. I'm always looking to create content off of every project that I'm doing, but it doesn't have to be that way. But I'm always searching for opportunities to create content around the projects that I do. So that's a big step when I'm going to commit to a project is what type of content can I showcase about this? And is it something that's going to be more of a demo, informational style, educational piece? Or is it going to be fun and flashy and something that I can put out there to add to all of the artistry that's already online? So whether it be one or the other or something else, I'm always looking to film things. And I think I got that spark from starting on the Throttle YouTube channel back in the day. So it's been really fun.
So, what would be the best way to for brands to reach out to you for brand endorsements and sponsored artists or collabs? Like, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. So on my Instagram and my TikTok page, I run those accounts solely just by myself. I don't have a team that works with me. I'm a solo installer, and I also run the social media part of my life on my own. So those are probably the two main platforms to get in touch with me is my Instagram or my TikTok. I'm constantly running through my DMs, making connections with different brands and different companies for different projects. So that is the best way to get in touch with me. For any brands that want to come up with a project or add something to the list for 2026 or in the future, that is it.
I love that because I'm taking notes. I would love to work with you for my brands. I'm like chomping at the bit to work with you on a collab for weekendwraps.com and for the apps and for, of course, Ink and Edge magazine, which we're so excited.
Absolutely.
I just want to announce that Chelsea has been so gracious to work with us and be a part of the magazine and actually have space as a monthly columnist. Yay! Which means she will have a dedicated column, and that is called. Go ahead, Chelsea. What's your column called? It's called.
Is
I
it
went
the
blank all of a sudden. That's why I'm like asking you. Oh, no limits. Okay, I'm gonna say that part. His column is called "No Limits" with Chelsea, and she's gonna have a monthly. Okay, I'm gonna start that. So Chelsea's column is "No Limits," and I'm super stoked because she's actually writing that on her own. She's going to come up with the things that resonate with her and that she sees in the industry that need to be talked about. Female installer, not just about that, but about everything that comes up with like PPF, installation technique, all of her tips and tricks, right? So I'm super stoked to read that each month. So
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I think even in the podcast, we only get to get into a little bit of each of these topics, but I can really elaborate in an article and share more about those topics and my thoughts on them. So I'm really excited to write it and be a part of it.
awesome. Yeah. Okay, so let me get you a couple. There's just like two more questions.
Okay.
And okay, three more questions. How do you lock in jobs to 9 to 5? What is key networking? So you kind of touched on this. What's the biggest way if you were giving advice for somebody off the street? What's the biggest way for them if they're new to get clients, to get new customers? What would you recommend for them to get new customers like doing? I'm gonna say that again. Sorry, this is my own thing. Okay, so Chelsea, that is super exciting. Also, good to know on how to reach you for brand endorsements. But for somebody who's just coming up in the industry who knows how to install, what's the best advice you can give them on getting new clients?
I think a lot of our industry is very word of mouth, but I wouldn't sleep on social media. Coming from being in a content creation background as well, I am just now scratching the surface for this, but I think more people need to be aware of how useful of a tool social media can be, and putting yourself out there and making sure people know what your skill set is and what you're hunting for. Let people know, tell your audience what it is your goals are, and then show that you are actively pushing towards them. You need to make sure that people are you need to convince people that you are reaching those goals and striving for that more than you need to convince yourself, because in order to get clients you need to build trust with your clientele, your audience that's watching you. So I think if you're convincing the audience, this is why I should be giving you this service, this is why you should be paying me to do this, they're more likely going to reach out to you and say, oh, this girl has the confidence, she knows exactly what she's doing, and I trust her already because she's displaying that she's very confident in what she does. So I think confidence is key. I think using social media to your advantage is way more overlooked than it should be these days, especially when there's so many outlets to be able to put yourself out there. Even if it feels intimidating, I think that the more that you do it, the better response you're going to get from your audience. Yes, there could be some annoying people that get in the way of that, but more often than not, people are going to remember what you're doing, and they're going to, the second that they need something wrapped or whatever service you're providing, they're going to instantly remember you because you're putting content out there that's in front of their face that actually explains exactly what you're providing. So use social media.
I think it's so crazy that you say that because I feel like there's two like schools of thought in regards to social media. Either they're like gung ho about it, or they're just posting like finished job. But I think there is such an in between that people can. The most important thing on social media on marketing your company or yourself is being authentic. If you can
Mm-hmm.
just tap into being yourself, which by the way is like the easier thing to do than try to like do just a glossy, flashy, reveal video every single time you do a project, is
Yeah.
just being real, giving that like content and showing your specialty. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
really just love doing PPF, just show PPF. Like be the best that you can at your PPF videos so that the moment somebody in your area needs PPF, they know who to call or know who to DM, right? What do you think, Chelsea?
Yeah.
Is that like kind of what?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, I
absolutely agree. There's plenty of installers. There's actually one in particular that I'm thinking of. He is the one installer that has given me more useful tips that I could ever think of. And he's not on social media. He is, but he hasn't got a family and a wife and a life, right? But he doesn't really post too much
okay,
about
good.
his work. And it's actually so frustrating because he's such a talented installer that I try to tell him all the time, if you just start posting about your skills, you are going to take off. And, some people like the attention and some people don't want that spotlight. And that's okay. But I think when you're trying to go for new clients and reach new audiences, that is the way to go in today's market. It's really just a public billboard that you can display and put your stuff out there and let people know, and they'll find you. Trust me, the right people
Awesome.
will.
You got to name drop who that is. I want to know who that is because you're saying like, oh, there's a guy out here. I'm like, who? Is it tallest rapper alive? Is it so and so? Who
No,
is
it's
it? Who is your
not.
influence?
His name is Tim. He is a phenomenal rapper out of San Diego, and I learned from him from the very beginning, along with plenty of other installers who gave me tips and tricks along the way. But he gave me some real life fine tuning tips that are completely
Game
well.
changers.
He's way more advanced. Yeah, he's way more advanced of an installer. He's the best installer I've ever met in my life, and I'm so lucky that he shared all of his tips of knowledge with me. Um, and I don't want this to like flood him with people trying to ask him all these questions or anything, because I know that he doesn't really
Yeah.
want that type of spotlight.
Oh,
But
that's okay. Yeah.
as the most phenomenal installer I've ever met, he definitely deserves it because he's great.
That's awesome. And that's kind of why I think you're perfect for the column because you can, share some of these tips to the readers of that and like hook people up. I think that's what makes being an influencer so cool is if you have the right heart and if you really are passionate about your craft, you're going to influence a lot of people to get in the industry and you're going to, like do good. Like, and I think
Thank you.
100% you are. So props to that. And I want to ask you another little question. So your corner of the rap world lives in racing. That's one of the things that I notice about you as well, is like racing. She's always repping racing, drifting, travel. What inspired you to move in the direction of motorsports, like more than anything else?
Yeah. So more than anything else, I think it aligns really well with my partner's career path as well. And partner, you're going to check in any relationship. You do want to make sure that your both of your career paths align in some way at some point. And my boyfriend being so highly skilled with mechanics, he knows how to build anything in his career. That's what he does. He builds cars for the internet on the Throttle YouTube channel. But even before that, he started going to tech school, learning all the mechanic skills. He worked at multiple shops and developed that skill over time before Throttle found him. And so he's been doing this. He could do it in his sleep if he needed to. And so I like to kind of play on he builds the cars and I make them look nice. So we're kind of this cool duo where we both get to contribute to a project together collectively. And a lot of the projects that he works on, they're drift cars, they're drag strip cars, they're, fun projects for the internet that Throttle showcases. And so even down to his personal vehicle, his Mazda RX-7, he does all kinds of cool stuff too. And so it's fun when we get to work on projects together. But if you look at the collective of what we work on, it's not a whole lot of like customer vehicles. We don't do things for people as a service. It's more we do projects and we make content about it, and it's either for YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, social media platforms that get what we do out there. And
Yeah,
draws that in turn will draw in more clientele for like fun projects or connecting with different people in our industry. And so that's kind of the direction that we like to go. And it's so much fun. But his career path and my career path, we're constantly paying attention to what direction either of us are going, and we make decisions as a unit that's going to benefit us both. So it's really pulled me in the direction of
you're very
drifting.
blessed.
I am. Thank you. I do feel that way every
Yeah,
single day, with the opportunities and the direction that we're going, and the doors that are opening in my realm is wild.
it's great to see. It's great to see when you get to actually collab with your own partner. Like and have that artistry and the thing that you both pretty much love, and you can discuss that with. Because I hear that opposite all the time. Because I actually have a business with with my partner, my husband. But it's one thing people had said before. It's like, oh, it must be terrible to work with, your spouse. Like, oh, you got to work with your partner. You must fight all the time. And I'm like, actually, we don't. And it's like it's kind of cool because I have somebody who has my back and like I can confide in, and it really helps me grow as a person in the industry. So I can kind of relate with what you're saying.
I love that. Yeah, it really depends on the people, I think. Like, I've worked at a shop before where he had his partner work there also, and they would bicker and fight all day. And I'm like, dang, that's a bummer. Is that what it's always like? And then I get into a situation where me and my partner are working on the same things all the time, and it's like the best of everything I could expect out of it because we just want to hang out all the time anyways. So doing, work alongside each other it just seems like second nature. So it's great.
It's awesome. So basically, for women or anyone really watching this, like who feels really called to something but hasn't jumped yet, what do you want them to understand about like the restyle industry, about like your mindset and being creative?
Yeah. So my biggest goals is to always showcase that anybody can do this. I love when people are asking me questions in my DMs and in my comments about how do I start, or what type of film is that, or where can I get some of that, or oh my gosh, I want to try to wrap that, or I want to try this project that's DIY. I'm always telling people exactly, where I'm getting this film, maybe some cheaper alternatives or a better direction for beginners. I'm trying to put out more content that's geared towards beginners so that they can kind of feel like, okay, I've got a grasp on it. So they can at least get the basics to get off the ground and try it out. Cause I think anybody can do it. It's not that difficult. At the end of the day, you ask a lot of installers and we all call it playing with stickers all day. But at the end of the day too, it's an artistry. It is a true passion for an artistry, and our medium is film and different aesthetics and changing things completely from looking one way to looking completely different, or even find little details. But I don't think it's unachievable for anybody. I can be that example coming into it with absolutely zero experience from a wildly different industry. I jumped right in and I trained and I looked. I taught myself how to do it from the ground up. And I think anybody can do that. It's just you need to go into it with the reality of what the industry holds. So I would say jump
Keep
on
trying.
two, not three. That is my biggest motto is jump on two, not on three. On three, you're already ready and the opportunity might have already passed. If you jump before you're ready, you will feel ready at some point. You might not feel ready right now when you're about to make a big move or a decision or a risk, but I promise once you're in it, you'll feel much more confident with that decision. But if you never make that choice and you never take that risk, you might regret that way. Later down the line, you might regret not taking that risk and not opening that door. But when you take it, so many opportunities are going to fall into your lap that you're not going to know what to do with. So definitely go and do the thing that you want to do before you're ready, because you shouldn't be letting time pass. I was getting into this a little bit earlier. Now that I am approaching 30, it's really a part of my mindset to not let time pass without doing something about it. Like, I don't want to look back when I'm going to blink and then I'm going to be 40 and then I'm going to turn around and say, what did I do with my 30s, right? I do that already with my 20s and I've already noticed that I've come so far. So it's motivating now as I get older to realize, like, you can't just let time pass. You have to take the big risks. You have to do it now too, because time is only going to continue on, and you don't want to go through life with any sort of regret of what could have happened, but I didn't take that risk. You want to give yourself
And
all the opportunity in the world. So just go for the risk.
I love that you mentioned you're wanting to do more videos that involve like tips and tricks and training and kind of showing people how to do the craft. I
Mhm.
think that's 100% where you should go because it's all about like it's going to resonate and with some people that need the help because I think as being in this scope of business that you're in and you're more at the top tier of that, so you're seeing a lot of the heavy hitters at the shows, you're seeing all the big people in our industry like on a daily in your own space and brand endorsements and stuff like that, you kind of lose sight of all these people that are younger or older, whatever, that are just getting into it or interested in getting into it. We want to make this industry approachable because it is something that if you have a knack for artistry, if you are really good with your hands and you love cars, you're probably going to really get excited about it and you're going to want to pursue it. And it's a hell of a lot better than a 4-year college degree that's getting you nowhere, for a lot of people. I'm just saying. So I would
Exactly.
encourage that, because that's one of the things that resonated when I saw you, is like you make things so approachable and fun and interesting, and there's so much that needs to be shared about our industry, like I feel like we're still scratching the surface on it. So one thing I want to ask you is, what is in the future for Chelsea and Quinn? That's your partner, right? Quinn?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any like upcoming projects? I have some that I'm gonna hopefully collab with you on, that I want to talk to you after the call or after the podcast. But what do you have for the next 5 years in your vision?
Yeah, so looking ahead at the next 5 years, that is quite a bit of a jump to look ahead, but definitely more content that's educational and helpful. I think I would love to be able to be diving into more of the instructor side of wrapping. I always am looking up to these top installers and the instructors and the content that they're putting out. And I finally feel ready enough, that I've gained enough experience that I would love to be able to give that to some of these upcoming newer installers in any way that I can, just to give back and make sure that they feel supported, because that wasn't a huge thing right at the beginning of the rap industry as a whole. And now there's so many opportunities for people to learn from different people all across the world. And I think it's a really fantastic way to connect the industry and keep everybody on the same page with new techniques and tricks. And it's just helpful to have. So I'd love to be part of that more. A bunch of fun projects for 2026. I've got my roster of things in the mix. And I'm excited to share about some of the upcoming projects I have, but a lot of them are revolving around Evolve. We're getting some big projects on the books here. We've got scheduled coming up here very soon for automotive things and more of architectural things coming. So that will be exciting. And then with Paint is Dead, also continuing my relationship with that brand and developing that and doing all kinds of fun stuff. They're pulling out tricks left and right, from crazy events at SEMA to crazy project cars. They do such a fantastic job at showcasing installers from all over. And so I'm really excited to be in connection with Austin and the team. So I think that that's great. And if I may add in a little shout out to an installer who I found recently. She's actually the sweetest girl and her work is phenomenal, but I really want to take this opportunity to bring more attention to what she's doing, because I think she's fantastic. Her page seems pretty new and I love where she's going, but it's called Wrapped by Katie. And I would love to post more about it, and I'll send it out on my story and on my
Great.
Instagram any way that I can. But she's making waves. I've reached out to her a few times just to congratulate her on the direction that she's taking as a female rapper. I'm really proud of her, and I think that she's going to do really, really well. So if I can do my part in getting her more eyes, because what she's doing is exactly what I feel all of us collectively want as a female installer, is to portray, and showcase that we can do really cool stuff and we can do some of these crazy raps and put out phenomenal artistry, and she's doing exactly that. So I want to commend her for the effort she's putting in, because it's not going unnoticed by any means.
I haven't heard of her, so I'm gonna look her up like literally right now. So thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah,
think
she's
that's great.
awesome.
Like, shout out to her. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and answering these questions and being the source of our next article and that you're writing. I'm really excited about how it's going to be put together and can't wait to read it. And yeah, check out Chelsea. You're going to follow her at Chelsea Gunnels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, keep following her and stay tuned for more.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. This has been so
Yeah.
much fun. I'm so excited to continue to work together and make some cool stuff happen. So thank you for having me on.
So, yeah, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and stop.
Okay.
My fingers are crossed.